You're listening to Two Bobs, Conversations on the Art of Creative Entrepreneurship with David C. Baker and Blair Enns.
David, have you ever advised any of your agency owner clients to shut it down and go get a job?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Probably a dozen of them over the years. 1%. Does that surprise you?
Well, I want to know if the irony of that strikes you as somebody who you probably see yourself, as I do, as unemployable.
Well, I think if you're not an entrepreneur, you are employable. And so if I don't think you're an entrepreneur, I'm going to recommend you shut the firm down, which means you are employable somewhere else. It's not always quite that simple because there might be multiple partners. And as long as one of those partners is clearly an entrepreneur, then it could work really well. But yeah, I have for sure. Yeah. And then a bunch of my clients have decided that on their own, right?
Yeah.
It used to be you might discover that you were on the wrong side of the divide, that you were on the client side and you really needed to be running your own firm, or the opposite. And you would fix that and, flip to the correct side. But it seems like there's more flipping back and forth these days, which I don't know how that feeds into my premise here, but
Yeah. Does that negate our topic of what makes entrepreneurs unemployable?
yeah, I guess so. We're done. This was a very quick.
Never mind.
If somebody offered you a job, I can't even say that.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have to fire you. You would fire yourself, just graciously.
From the job that I don't take, you mean?
From the job you do take accidentally and incorrectly. The only variable is how long it would take before you decided it was a mistake. I'm thinking 6 months, 7 months. What do you think?
Oh, God, no. Before I showed up, I would realize the mistake. Both of us have been doing this long enough and our careers or businesses are established that it's been a long time since any client ever offered me a job. But when's the last time that happened to you? It must have happened in the early days where a client said, you're really good at this. Why don't you come and be my general manager or president or whatever, or janitor? When's the last time that happened?
It's never happened.
Really?
That says something, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm surprised, but I shouldn't be. Okay, never mind. All right.
What about you? When's the last time somebody said you should take over their sales?
I don't remember. It's been a very, very long time, 15, 20 years. 15 years for sure.
Maybe it's just that you and I are unemployable, and we're just projecting this on everybody in the audience.
Did you know you were unemployable when you were an employee?
Yeah, I did. The jobs I've had, I learned so much. Even though one of the bosses I had was really kind of a jerk, but he had a good heart, and I still learned a lot. I don't regret working for him. But then the last job I had, that guy was a real jerk, and he's still alive. So hopefully he doesn't listen to this. And the business was going through a rough time. I was a general manager, and I had to lay off some people, and I knew that another round of layoffs was coming. And I just said, you know what? I can't lay off these people. I need to let myself go here. This isn't a fit for me. It makes no sense for me to be general manager for a firm at the current size. It was smaller at that point. So I just laid myself off. So I've never been fired. I've just always anticipated it. Sort of like George in Seinfeld, break up before she can break up with me.
Yeah, I've been fired, but that's a story for another day. Let's unpack this idea of what makes entrepreneurs unemployable. Why is it that some clients, even in tough times, and it's relatively tough times out there as of this recording in January of 2026 for a lot of independent creative firms, some in tough times maybe should shut it down and go get a job, or they contemplate it and they think, I just can't do that. I am wired to do this. I am meant to do this. What are the reasons at the top of the list?
Yeah, well, there's 4 of them that I could think of. And the first one is just this idea of unlimited earning potential. And this one strikes me as true but hilarious because, when you're working for somebody else, you don't decide what you make. Somebody else decides what you make. And usually you're going to make less than the owner, unless you're really good at sales. There's some rare exceptions there. And so you just think, oh, gosh, I cannot live in a scenario where my income is capped. It's not like you need that extra money. And here's the hilarious part about it. So you quit the job because you're an entrepreneur. You go start your own firm. Now your income is not capped, but there's a good chance you're making less money now than you made when you were working for somebody else. So it's this intellectual sort of ethereal. It's like, I don't want it to be capped. Like, it doesn't matter too much what I make, but it can't be capped. And I think that's one of the reasons that entrepreneurs are who they are, is they don't like the idea that there's a ceiling to what they can make when they're working for somebody else.
That makes sense. Salespeople are like that too, or a lot of high drive salespeople are like that. They don't want a cap on their commission. They want unlimited earning potential. I have the same rationale for my many reasons to never retire. One of them is I don't think I could live on a fixed income no matter how high it is. So it's the same idea. To me, that's like being in prison.
That is so funny. And knowing you too, it's like, oh my God, that is so true. It's not like you spend a lot of money. The idea of a budget is just like, what is it? You can't even spell the word budget.
The joke in my house is I'm going to write a book called Europe on $5,000 a day.
Yeah, because when you want something and maybe the money isn't there, it never occurs to you, well, maybe I shouldn't get that. It's like, well, I'll go out and make money.
I'll shake the money tree. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so number one at the top of the list, why entrepreneurs, maybe they're not unemployable, but they see themselves as unemployable. First of all, this idea of restricting their income, their earning potential. They want unlimited upside, and they're willing to take the risk associated with that, meaning maybe there are years when you earn very little or nothing. They're willing to make that trade. After that, what's on your list?
Yeah, next is this idea of mistakes. And this one's also hilarious to me. I don't know why all of this is hilarious to me. But as entrepreneurs, we make mistakes. And when we are working for an entrepreneur, that entrepreneur makes mistakes. But somehow, the mistakes that entrepreneur we're working for makes, those are much worse. It's like something about, I'm allergic to any mistakes that are not my own. If I made the mistake, okay, I can fix it. But I just hate to live under a scenario where I have to eat the consequences of somebody else's mistake. I don't mind eating the consequences of my mistakes. I just don't want to eat them from somebody else's mistakes. And that's why it's sort of hilarious to me, because it's not like we're saying, well, we do say we can run things better, but it's not like we're not going to make mistakes. It's just that they're going to be our mistakes, and we're okay with that.
You can't countenance the idea of working for an idiot, but you don't mind being that idiot.
Yeah, it's a better way to say it, yeah.
There's a maxim, I don't know who first said it, but we judge others by their behavior and we judge ourselves by our intent. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So we don't look behind the actions at the intent. Well, he meant well, like that was just an honest mistake. We do that for ourselves, but not for other people.
Yeah, and that might explain that. Makes sense to me. Next on your list is inefficiencies corrected by process. This one's got me scratching my head. What do you mean by this?
Yeah. So what makes a great employee is a willingness to some degree to follow process. What makes an entrepreneur successful is their willingness to take risk, so their aptitude for risk. What comes along with that is the ability to see patterns and to fix them with better process. Now, here's where the hilarious part comes in here. The same people who put together processes are not the people who follow them.
Yeah.
And you can see that in timekeeping, for instance. It's like, who are the worst offenders always? It's the people at the top. It's like, yeah, well, whatever, you make all these kinds of mistakes. But you really need to do it. In the break room, we're going to post a little thing about anybody who didn't comply and you don't get pizza on Friday and all that nonsense. It's just sort of an interesting corollary in that the people who are entrepreneurs, they see faults in the way things are done. And when you are working for somebody else, you don't necessarily have the power to make those changes, but you're always looking at the way things unfold as an entrepreneur, whether you're working for somebody else or not, and you say, this could be better. That's part A. Part B is, and I'm the one to fix it. And that's a part of that personality profile. This could be better, and I'm the one to fix it. So you want to run your own firm because you keep seeing these things, but you need your own firm to have the power to fix it, to put all these processes in place. It doesn't go further. You don't follow the processes, but you want the ability to just wholesale make any changes you want at the firm because of things that you see that aren't working the way you think they should be.
It sounds like entrepreneurship is one big joke to you. All these things are tickling your funny bone about the way entrepreneurs think. And then you imagine dropping the entrepreneur into the job where there are systems and processes and they have to follow them. What did they do then?
They quit. Yeah, that's what I mean. They're unemployable because real true entrepreneurs can't follow process. And when you're an employee, you got to follow process. That's one of the reasons you're unemployable.
There's a relation to creativity there, at least the version of creativity that I subscribe to. And that's this idea that creativity is the ability to see, which is the ability to think on your feet. And you can plot it out on a spectrum known as autonomy. So really creative people are highly autonomous. They eschew systems, processes, and routine, and they want to reserve the right to think about it differently. What they really want to preserve is the freedom to adopt a new perspective, which means going and standing in a different place so you can look at the problem differently. And systems and processes don't allow you to do that. They want you marching in a certain line and a certain rhythm, et cetera. So the entrepreneur and the creative person really doesn't want to be hemmed in by the process. But to your point, when they see inefficiencies in their business, they're pretty comfortable inventing processes for others.
And they don't mind just dumping a process 7 days later and starting a new one. You see this happen in the EOS model where a visionary comes back to work Monday and says, hey, I've been thinking. And the integrator raises his hand or her hand and says, hey, this last process you brought me last Monday, we're still trying to implement it. Like, do you really want to change it right now?
Yeah, that's where the integrator, speaking in my own business, needs to draw the line and say, well, the last time you were thinking, we're still wading through the carnage. So how about you quit thinking and let's have the meeting that you agreed that we were going to have.
Can you say that in Colette's voice?
I thought I just did.
Oh, that's good.
Anything else on your list of what makes entrepreneurs unemployable?
Yeah, I think it's so much a part of their identity. Like somebody who is an employee attains a VP title, for instance. They've climbed the ranks. Say they're at a PR firm. There's 7 levels, right? And they've attained the VP level, and they're proud as can be for this. And they can sit at that level and be fantastic contributors for a long time and be very satisfied, very happy. An entrepreneur looks at a VP title and just scoffs, like for themselves, right? I am laughing a lot here. I know. I don't know what's going on. But an entrepreneur, it's not enough to be CEO. You're also founder, CEO, president. You got to have 3 titles. It's like your whole identity is tied up in this. And, the joke is, how do you know if someone's a pilot? It's like, don't worry about it. They'll tell you. And the same thing is true with entrepreneurs. How do you know somebody's an entrepreneur? Don't worry about it. It'll come out very quickly in the conversation. So it's a part of their identity. I don't think it's bad. I think it's great. Like I'm a builder. I'm somebody that makes something from nothing. And made lots of mistakes. Maybe I'm not the best in the world, but this is mine. I made this. And, a lot of people helped me get here and I appreciate them, but I made this. I'm the one responsible for this. That's part of the identity of the entrepreneur. And it's hard to maintain that when you're employed by somebody else. That's the last reason, I think.
It's fun to poke fun at the characteristics of entrepreneurs, but you and I are both entrepreneurs and we serve entrepreneurs. And I know I can speak for you when I say we both love entrepreneurs and love working with entrepreneurs. It's such a richer world than the opposite. So I hope everybody's taking the jesting as it's intended. You have here 3 exceptions to this rule of where entrepreneurs are not unemployable. I think we've talked about them. Anything else you want to hit here before we talk about entrepreneurship?
Yeah. One is, we talked about this at the very beginning. If you are not an entrepreneur and you're running your firm, you're probably miserable. And so you correct that mistake and you go work for somebody else. That's not a failure. That's actually a success to fix that. You go work for somebody else, you're happier, you sleep better at night, and so on. Another is when you sell your firm, because during the earnout, now Thankfully, earnouts are never 5 years. The longest they ever are 3, and frequently they're shorter than that, sometimes 0. But if there is an earnout associated with the purchase of your firm, then you are an employee, essentially. And that's one of the factors that you think carefully about before you accept a particular deal, and why you craft that earnout really carefully. And then this one comes up every once in a while, this third exception. And I really love this one because if you look across the landscape of agencies these days, there are quite a few former principals who are working at these agencies but don't own them. So they decided that they weren't a great entrepreneur, but instead of going to work on the client side, they went to work for another principal. And the reason I like this is because these people are often the very best employees you have, because they understand what it's like to be in your role. They give you grace about how tough those decisions are. They take over little areas of a kingdom to relieve you of that. Everybody knows they're not out for your job. They tried that once, it didn't work. They're like the former coach of a team that's now a position coach that could step in if you get sick or something like that. So that's the third exception, when you decide not to go work for the client, but go work for another entrepreneur in the same space.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of that, but as you're talking about it, I can see the appeal of hiring somebody who used to run a firm like yours. Seems like an obvious one.
Yeah.
When you're talking about earnouts, I was thinking of many of the agency owners that I have known over the years who have sold their business and then just suffered during the earnout period because of that transition from an entrepreneur to an employee, just validating the fact that they were never meant to be an employee.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're referencing a post that you wrote. It is called "What Makes Entrepreneurs Unemployable." You don't use the word intrapreneur, but you talk a little bit about the entrepreneur who works for you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to say about that person?
Yeah, because many of these entrepreneurs that are listening to this podcast worked for somebody else, for another entrepreneur, and they discovered slowly that, oh, I'm not destined for this. I need to start my own firm. And it was an ugly or a pretty breakup, whatever. Those people who are now running their own firms, they may have somebody on their team that is either a real entrepreneur and will start their own firm, or maybe they'll buy the firm from the entrepreneur they're working for, or maybe they think they're an entrepreneur and they're not. What you shouldn't do is try to change somebody's mind, try to put golden handcuffs on. Whether the person is a real entrepreneur or not doesn't matter. It's, do they think they are? If they think they are, then keep them as long as you can, but not with handcuffs, but just by involving them in leadership, having open books with them, teaching them everything you can. And then when it's their time to leave, then bless that and do it with as much goodwill as possible. Don't be evil about it. I see too many principals who they look at somebody who's clearly an entrepreneur and they don't know what to do about it. Don't try to change that person's mind. Now, assuming that this is a good-hearted person. If the person is evil and is going to take your clients and or your employees and sort of bury them with extreme prejudice, everything you can do up to the legal line. But if everything is good, then make the best of it. Let them have fantastic memories of you, because this is real. It's never been easier to start a firm. And after all, there are no moats. Like, tomorrow I'm an entrepreneur, file a little form and hang out a shingle and bam, I'm here. It's not like you got to get some certification. So it happens a lot. Some of the people that started don't end up succeeding. That's fine. And then they sometimes come back. Some of those people, those boomerang employees, are also fantastic employees, especially if you've handled this process well. So that's the one final note about having an entrepreneur who's actually working for you at the moment, how to handle that.
As you're talking about that, I'm thinking of some of the agency principals I've known who are what I would consider to be the best leaders. And I think all of them have been really magnanimous on that front when they've had entrepreneurs in their midst who wanted to go out on their own. Some of them even invested in their agencies, remained mentors to them for periods of time. And your last point about some of these people come back, they find out, well, maybe I'm not an entrepreneur. Maybe I don't have the risk profile that I thought I had. Maybe it's more important to me at this stage in my life to have income security. They come back and I think we've talked about boomerang employees like that before. You're a big fan of rehiring the good ones. And I think a little bit of experience out there putting themselves in the business owner's shoes for a little while and coming back and understanding how difficult it is, that probably makes for a pretty good relationship and a great employee moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. And like you mentioned a minute ago, I too love entrepreneurs. I just love how intelligent and curious they are. I love how they can just make decisions quickly. It's like that's what frustrated me when I was working for large clients, doing the same thing I'm doing for agencies. I was also working for large publicly traded companies, and I would just walk into the parking lot and think, it's like I've made no difference here. Nobody's going to make a decision. And that's what I love about the clients I get to work with. They make decisions, and they're not all correct. Neither are the decisions that I make, but they make decisions. It's so gratifying to be part of a world where you can see that something could be better and you make a decision to make it better. It's a beautiful thing.
That's interesting. Yeah, people who are used to selling to entrepreneurs, working with entrepreneurs, just even the sales cycle of selling to non-entrepreneurs. Like in my world, it would be selling to holdco-owned agencies. Oh my God, the pace and the bureaucracy of it all. You know me, David. I lose interest after one sales call. If it doesn't close in one, it's like, yeah.
It wasn't meant to be.
Shouldn't be in the sales training business, maybe. Marcus, take that out. Just kidding. You had a final thought on the relationship between entrepreneurs, generalists, and specialists that you want to leave a final parting comment on this?
As if I haven't been rude enough to entrepreneurs. It's like entrepreneurs are generalists, okay? And that's why they're really good at starting things, because they're good enough at doing lots of things, and then they bring people along and so on. But if your firm is successful, you're going to have to hire specialists who are better at every one of those things than you are. And now you're a good manager that people want to work for. But if you find yourself looking at your team and you think you're better at most things than your people, then it could be that I guess you just hired the wrong people, but that's not usually it. That just means you're a generalist with a very poor memory. Where you think like, man, when I did that, it never took me that long. No, it's like you just have a bad memory. That's one of the things that entrepreneurs need to realize is that they are generalists who know how to wrangle the efforts of a lot of different specialists and put beautiful things together for a great result for clients. That's what you are. And you know how to move all the pieces around. You're not one of those pieces. You're the person who moves those pieces around. You're the generalist. And you have to be okay with having lots of specialists who are much better at something than you are. You've got to be okay with that.
Yeah, that's great advice. And don't make the mistake of shaping your business like your generalist self.
Ah, right.
The business should specialize just as you have specialists in the firm. I like the idea that you're the owner, you're the one moving the pieces around and you're not one of the pieces.
Yeah.
Very enlightening.
Do I need to apologize for anything?
No, I don't think so. I think the entrepreneurs listening know how much they're loved by the two Bobs. Thank you for this, David.
Thanks, Blair.
Thank you for listening to Two Bobs with David C. Baker and Blair Enns. Read episode notes and transcripts at twobobs.com. That's the number 2, BOBS.com.